Hello and welcome to another interview for my blog and podcast, A Rich Comic Life. My name is Richard Gill and my blog describes my experiences of watching over 1,500 comedians for the last 50 years. I'm delighted to welcome my guest today. It's Ben Patterson. Yay!
Welcome. Finally.
Hello.
After all the emails and all the demands, I'm finally here. Hello. Very nice.
Exactly. I've been after you for a while.
Yeah.
How are you? You all right?
I'm lovely. Yeah, it's nice. It's been sunny and dry. That's all I can ask from the world, really. And
beautiful weather, isn't it? We're recording this September 24th. It's absolutely glorious. Thank you so much for doing this. I'm really looking forward to talking to you. It's all going to be about your comedy career. And we're going to go right back to the start. And if you can tell me, please, how did you become a comedian in the first place?
Oh, well, it was a slightly funny route. I can't imagine too many people do this. Well, let's see. So I ran shows, like did the door, and still do to this day. Run shows here and there. And one of the shows that I ran was for Matt Brown, wonderful comedian, and
being on Ian.
Absolutely, yeah. Oh, great! Oh, excellent. He can, in that case, he can corroborate this story. It'll be fine. So I was helping him run a show, and we were doing a sound check once, and he asked me to get on the mic and just say anything at all. And so I said anything at all, and then he said, "Yep, keep going." And so I just dropped in a few of my own jokes. So because I was in a comedy room and it was set for comedy, and I was rocking the mic, and so I just reeled off a couple of silly jokes that I'd written, and he laughed and he said, "Are they you?" And I said, "Yeah, they are." And he said, "Oh, do you want to do 5 minutes at Kingston, which is the show I still run now?" And and so that was that was it really. That was the sort of the little bump that I needed to get performing. And so I owe it all to him. It's if that, when my autobiography comes out, it'll be dedicated.
I like your confidence. It's one of your great qualities.
That's it. Yeah. It's. I mean, I've been accused of all the gear, no idea. But yeah, I think. You've got to assert yourself, haven't you? But yeah, it's nice. I think. It was funny. It was just something that it suited the. Yeah, it suited the environment. If I was asked to test drive a car on a Formula One track, maybe I'd try and drive very quickly. As testing the mic in a comedy club, I thought, try to be funny. But so that was a sort of a nice, sort of fairly natural. Sort of way into it, really, just like getting a little bit of affirmation from someone that knows what they're talking about, and I think, I'll carry on doing this thing. Yeah.
What sort of year was this?
Oh no, so it would have been just a bit pre-lockdown. So I actually started probably maybe started 2019 probably, and then I was probably only going for 6 months before taking a structured career break that absolutely everyone did for 2 years. And then I've been back on it, properly since whenever we came back. So sort of properly at it for a few years now.
So has it always been based around Outside the Box, or the comedy club that Math owns, or did you do 5-minute slots in little pubs to get yourself going?
Oh no, I did it properly. Yeah. So I've been since the very start. I sort of gigged as much as possible, and 2 or 3 times a week, and just turning over as much material and getting as much experience of performing and in different sort of contexts as I could. So from the start, I thought I sort of wanted to do it properly. So I sort of, so I tried to be as busy as possible, really. Yeah. Certainly for the first year or so, just being, trying to gig, any time I had a free night, really. And that was all over, mainly London and the Southeast. I live in Kent, but and so obviously most of the opportunities are in London. But as wide a variety as possible. It's really nice having a home game. It's really nice having a particular spot where you feel really comfortable, and that would probably be Kingston for me, somewhere that I just feel like it's like my front room or whatever, because I've played there quite a lot. But it's just I think it's really helpful to play as many rooms as possible.
I've just moved to Kingston very recently. I moved in May, and I absolutely love it. I'm in a lovely place. It's a lovely town. And there's 2 wonderful comedy clubs. One of them is Outside the Box. The other one is Crack Comedy. which I've been to both, and I'm so delighted it's on my doorstep. So you will be seeing a lot more of me. I'm coming to see you on the 30th of September.
Oh, amazing! Excellent.
Which is very soon. That is perfect. John Kearns and Rich Wilson.
You can't say much fairer than that. That's going to be a taught them everything they know as well. So
exactly. So I'll see you on the door.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, you'll get a warm hug from me. That'd be lovely.
Good
it's
man.
An absolute joy. I mean, someone like John Kearns is.
He's brilliant.
Like, no one needs to be briefed on how good and how exciting he is to watch, how novel he is, and how interesting it is his performances. And
he's more like a character comedian, isn't he, John Kearns? And I love the off-field. You never know what you're going to get with him.
Exactly. No, I think that's the thrilling. That's what I want, really. That's what I get a kick out of when I'm watching someone else. Just not knowing what they're going to say, really. It's just interesting. And that's sort of what I want from conversations, really, I think, in general. Which I understand sounds like it's really putting the pressure on you, Richard.
Can you describe the first time you held a microphone? How did you feel?
The first time I held a microphone would have been doing a sound check at a comedy gig. But the first time I held a microphone sort of in earnest and performing would have been that gig, I think, in Kingston, and it was. How did it feel? Normal, nice, okay, yeah. Nothing. It didn't feel like. I didn't feel, oh my goodness, I've made it. I'm a megastar, and nor did I feel, oh, I'm completely overawed by this. That what's going on? How does this work? It felt like. Again, it's a context thing. Like if you're sitting behind the wheel of a car, like, oh, I guess that's the accelerator and that's the brake. Oh, let's do this. And if you're holding a microphone in the comedy club, oh, I guess they're the audience, so I should be entertaining them, really. And they're the lights, so I should be in them. It felt fairly natural. Obviously, like anyone, for the first few gigs, it is odd. Like, you've never done that before. Public speaking is odd. You're just not used to addressing lots of people. And crucially as well, so you're talking to 50 people in one go. And you might even have tried to do that in the past, but they're not predisposed to listen to you in everyday life. Like, if you just clap your hands in the middle of a shopping centre and say, "Okay, guys, gather up. I'm going to talk to you now," they're not going to do that. So it's even weirder than just talking to people. It's the fact that even though they don't know you, you're nobody. You just walked on stage with not very much fanfare. They are sort of effectively, you have their full attention sort of from the off, which I think that's almost a strange thing about the first few times performing, that like no one's interrupting me, no one's hooking me off the stage, I'm used to my my mum telling me to shut up at dinner, when I voice an opinion. But yeah, there's something quite I think that's almost a strange thing about those first few times performing. So it's almost not so much the nerves, I hope they like me, I hope it's okay. I think almost the thing to get used to is the weirdness of you instantly having their attention and you being meant to be there, or them deeming you being meant to be there.
That's the magic thing about the art form, though, because you're in the moment, and certainly with it being live, it's amazing because anything can happen, and we're there to hear you. We're not there to hear any heckles or anything like that. We don't want anything like that because we're not, as I say, we're not here to hear them. I always remember the comedian Ricky Grover at Headliners Comedy Club. He walked on. He was halfway through his set, and there was two people in the front row being really quite horrible to him. So he stopped the show. He jumped down and he physically threw them out. And he came back on to the theme from Rocky because it's next there. And the crowd loved it. And he used that to, it was genius. He used that to make everybody listen to him.
That's wonderful. And it's inspiring when the tech guys, because obviously I run shows, so I am this guy sometimes. When the tech guys, so lighting or sound, if they can be nimble enough to respond to something that's going on stage, it might only happen once every a couple of times a year, but it's cool to be able to have a song queued up or to do something with the lights or something to sort of denote showbiz, excitement. This is special, isn't it? Ricky Grover's got the advantage, obviously, of being, as the term goes, a shit brick house as well. So not everyone could usher someone out.
You're not going to mess with him.
Yeah, exactly. I think he literally used to be a security guard. I think something like that. Like he's
a bouncer or something like that. Yeah. There's another example of Jo Caulfield at the Edinburgh Fringe.
Oh yeah.
She was doing a show, and the lights suddenly went out, and she was standing in the dark. And she just continued to do it for the hour and was absolutely brilliant, just entertaining the audience with her voice. She always does a great show, but to just carry on as though nothing had happened, that's a magical quality to have.
That's amazing, and I think that's the highest level you can reach as a performer, being in the moment and responding spontaneously to whatever happens.
Very much so, yeah.
Being yourself and staying in control, I think, is great.
Yeah. What do you like to talk about on stage? Do you have any themes or anything like that?
The short answer is myself, isn't it? I suppose
Well, why not?
Yeah, that's a good question. I suppose I talk about music a lot. So in real life, like music's the thing that I'm most passionate about. So a lot of my gags do take in music. I'm a big fan of the Beatles and contemporary, interesting, weird music as well. And so it's funny, isn't it, that I only found that out after a year or so of sort of stockpiling material and writing stuff that I thought it was all sort of unrelated one-liners or just ideas, just idle ideas drawn from the idle thoughts that I'd have in my day-to-day life. But you realise that your brain does run on certain tracks, like your response to a situation wouldn't be the same as just anyone's. And so that was actually one of the interesting things of sort of collating the material after about a year or so of seeing, how can I bunch this together, and what are the sort of the themes that are emerging. And it was interesting to see that there was, without willing it particularly, there was quite a lot on music. There's quite a lot on family. There's a decent amount on sort of love and romance. And and they probably are the strands of my personality. That is probably how it is. And actually, speaking about John Kearns, I think that's a similar. I think there are many parallels between me and the Perrier Award winner.
Of course.
You would never mistake his stuff for autobiography, but everything comes from his response to the world. It's true. It is. It just is true. It's not. You might not be able to find an example of what he said in the world, but it springs from a real situation or one's genuine response to the world, to your own life. And so I got a lot. So music and love probably are the things I talk about on stage the most, and they're probably the things that I think about the most.
That's a great answer. The excuse me. They always say that talk about things that you know about.
Yeah.
And certainly when I started the blog, I used to create lists of everything I ever did. So I had music bands, I had lists of films, I had a list of all the comedy acts and places where I saw them. And I thought, I've got something here, and I think specifically with the comedy, I think it's very unique because nobody's done it from an audience point of view before, and I think that's why it's taken off, because the amount of stories that are in the blog because of me sitting in an audience watching the wonderful art form is fantastic.
Definitely. And I think there's nothing you can't arrive. There are some insights you can't arrive at any other way other than being in the room, and particularly obviously as you have so much experience of being a good audience member and being involved in the show. It means that you're able to call upon that experience in sort of processing the next gig. This reminds me of Very much so. There is something different to it.
Tell me about your writing process for a routine or show.
I would say my writing process is I don't do too much sitting down and thinking, right, what topic will I dazzle people's ear holes with today? It's usually I'll just be living my life and I'll hear something on the radio or something will happen, or I'll be looking at something and that will trigger a silly thought, and then I'll write that down on my phone or on a piece of paper, whatever, and then I'll just sort of and then I'll turn it into a joke. So there'll usually be it's usually linguistic. It's usually a word or a phrase or something that I think, oh, why is that like that? Or that would be that's an odd word that doesn't conform to usual linguistic rules or something like that. And then I sort of try and build a joke around it. Like I don't do too much autobiographical stuff. It's rare that I'll have a silly exchange with a shopkeeper, and then I'll just go on stage that night and say, "Oh, I was talking to a shopkeeper, and he said this, and I said that I don't. My brain doesn't usually sort of run in that way. But yeah, so it will usually be So I'll be living my life. Something interesting will happen. I'll write it down, and then I'll come to that later on that day and just think. I'll tend to ask myself. I'll tend to think, what's the soundest way of saying that word or thing on stage whilst camouflaging the fact I'm about to say it and put it in an interesting context. So what context would it be weird to say the word, sectarian paramilitaries in, and then so that'd be fun. That's something I'm working on at the moment. Actually, I haven't fitted that into a gag yet, but I want to. It usually just starts with a silly sounding word, an interesting sounding word or phrase, and then just sticking that in there. And then sometimes obviously there is just I'll listen to the Beatles a lot, and I'll have an opinion about the Beatles, and I'll think, I'll say that on stage because I think that's weird, and other people wouldn't.
My favourite band, The Madness, of course.
Oh, amazing! Amazing. And are you steeped in ska?
So, yeah.
Like sort of Spuffers and Selector and all of those boys?
Yeah, I love all that. Yeah, my older brother was a punk, and so he would be 16 and I was 10. And this was about 1977, something like that, and I cottoned on right at the end of it. So the Jam, and then Madness, and I loved Simple Minds, and but my musical taste is very, very wide, just like my comedy, and it's fascinating even there, listening to new stuff, and I'm always on the lookout for it all. Exactly. I've seen you perform a routine, and I've also seen you wonderfully compare as well. You've been a compare at Always Be Comedy. That I've seen. Which do you prefer, and why?
Oh, that's a good question. I prefer doing sets because I've got more control, and I just have things on my mind that I'd like to get off my chest, and I can make sure that I say those things when I'm doing a set. Like I think comparing is great, really fun, very satisfying when it goes well, and really enlivening in a way that a set it is less often. Just because obviously it is spontaneous and reactive, and you've got to be sort of match fit. You've got to be you've got to respond to whatever's dished up to you at that moment. And so comparing is really satisfying, but I like the precision and I just like you can prepare. It's more satisfying thinking, I'm going to try and mold the audience in this way, make them think this, laugh at these things for 10 or 20 minutes, and then deliver that. I find that more satisfying than I'll see what's on the audience's mind and then tell them how I feel about that. I certainly prefer doing sets, and I think that sometimes you can't. Weirdly, I think there's almost less. I think there's less of yourself in emceeing. Weirdly, even though it's spontaneous and obviously you have to respond naturally and organically, and it is completely you when you're being spontaneous and comparing. You're so aware of the practical demands of the gig. You've got to make sure everyone's happy and settled, and you're aware of the style of the next act. And you want to do something to set them up right, and you don't want to overrun, and all the practical demands are such on an MC that I think I don't know. I find it maybe a bit inhibiting. I feel like I'm happier to muck about in my own set because that's not going to affect anyone else. But I feel like as an MC, since you have a practical responsibility to the night to make it go well and to make the 50 or 100 people in front of you enjoy themselves, there's a bit more pressure on it. Weirdly, it's counterintuitive because obviously MCing is a lot of just mucking about and making sure everyone's having a nice time. But yeah, I think it's more fun to take chances in the set because it's just about the relationship between you and the audience, whereas the MC always has to basically think about the family. Like the MC always has to think about how is it if the other act. I don't want to do something that's that spoils it for another round. I don't want to throw the microphone at the wall, or sort of actually berate someone in the front row to mean that they're going to be less engaged with the next guy. And so basically I think I prefer doing sets because you can take more chances and be sillier, which is counterintuitive because you often look quite silly when you're doing MC.
I once had a go at stand-up comedy years and years ago.
One of those, the time at the top.
Well, the story is legendary. I've told it to a lot of comedians on here. Years and years ago, I used to know a promoter in Edinburgh, and I said to him, I think I'm funny in pubs. Can I have a go at stand-up comedy? And it was on the Free Fringe, and he said, we've got a gong show for old people in the Haymarket. And we think, if you want to have a go, you can. So I wrote this script about me crashing cars in my home city of Carlisle because I'd just passed my driving test. Yeah. And he loved it. And I walked on and I went, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. There's 3 people in the crowd, 3 drunks. Okay. And I said, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. People think I look like Eddie the Eagle Edwards, the ski jumper, but I can't see the resemblance myself. And of course, I did double. And one old fella at the back just went, fuck off and cut us off. And it was like...
It's not a big Eddie the Eagle fan, I suppose. That's not your fault, Richard. That's all on Eddie.
So a lot of comedians have told me the worst thing you can do is a gong show. However, never say never again, because I'm coming up to 16, 3 years' time, or there's this anniversary this year. If I could get a little gig on somewhere, who knows? I would very much like to compare something, and try and get the difference between the two, because I think to compare you have to, as you say, be match fit, because you're in control. Really, you're making sure that everybody's having a good time, but making sure it flows well. But also, if you're doing a routine, like you say, you've got free reign. You can do what you like.
Yeah, exactly. And I do think it's a really different muscle group, and I'd be fascinated. I would love to see that show, Richard. I want you MC.
Oh, who knows? Never say never, but who knows?
And who do I want on the bill? I want you. I can only think of. I was thinking. Honestly, the first 3 names I was thinking, I want you, Victoria Wood, Billy Connolly, and Bill Cosby. They're not going to happen for 3 very different reasons, but that would be the night that I want to see.
Wow. Well, I've seen 2 of them live.
On the
I saw Victoria Wood in Carlisle and London. She was amazing, and I saw Billy Connolly both in London. I haven't seen Bill Cosby, but. She was incredible. She really was live. Yeah. She was something else, Victoria Wood, and Connolly, of course, he's top 5. He really is.
A big deal.
So you mentioned earlier about nerves. You touched on nerves. How do you cope with any nerves, if you get any, before you go on stage?
I try to stay in my body. I think. I don't get loads of nerves. I think you're always a bit nervous before you don't feel settled, or it's typical to not feel settled until you get your first laugh. But I think a lot of people would have said that, and I think that's probably true. How do I cope with them? I obsessively repeat what my first line is going to be in my head and remind myself that it's worked before. And
that's great.
Because but that's it. I mean, honestly, I suppose like any sensei will tell you, a lot of dealing with nerves, it is just accepting it and understand, this is a natural way to feel. This is a weird thing to do. Let's just hope for the best, and actually I suppose that if I was being my own best friend and talking to myself, if I was feeling nervous, I'd say it's like you're there for 10 or 20 minutes, you're there for a while, even if the first few seconds is hard. There's plenty else going on. It's not going to end after 10. Well, and this is why gong shows are so difficult, because you can go on, have a bad time for 10 seconds, and then that's it. Like if life were like that, that would be really, really challenging.
That's what put me up.
Exactly. If you know that you're there for a 5 or 10 or 20, and so it's okay that You've got enough time to express yourself, let them know what you're up to, get to your favorite joke, but do whatever you want to do. And so so it's those sorts of things I think would calm me down. But no, just obsessively repeating my opening line in my head and just saying, it worked in Dartford on Tuesday. It's going to work in Liverpool this month.
That's like Ken Dodd with his giggle map of Britain. He always used to. He had this enormous map of Great Britain, and he would mark where specific jokes would work. So when he'd go around touring, he'd have a specific joke for each town or city. Amazing.
And do you mean that would be specifically about
the town,
a landmark in Lancashire?
Yeah.
Or do you mean it would be something of the style?
Or I went to a specific place in Carlisle today, so the audience instantly relate to him and he's away. Victoria Wood was very good at that as well. She would always bring a line in for the local place she would go, and that's research, to really research your audience. They're very, very special people. He was amazing, Ken Dodd.
Yeah.
He was literally joke after joke after joke. He's top 5 for me.
Oh yeah.
I would say one of my.
Well, he was like. Go on. Well, I was just going to say he's like the Ramones. He's just like.
What an analogy!
Okay. It's just irresistible. You can't deny that this is what a value for money. I know some of the Ramones live, but imagine just 90 minutes of 2-minute smashers, just a one after the other, no mucking about. And Ken Dodd was just the same thing, just absolutely.
Yeah, but it was 5 hours, not 90 minutes.
It's not.
That's what I loved about him. He loved being on stage. How do you remember all your routines? Do you have a method of remembering them all?
That's a good question. I think because a lot of my stuff is quite short, really. Like I think most of my ideas they're sort of one-liners or one-liner adjacent. They're silly little punchy short little things, and that is hard to remember because it's not just a story where I woke up and I brushed my teeth and I went out and I got in the car. Sometimes what I end up doing is threading together a lot of short jokes into one, not necessarily story, but into sort of one arc, thing, little blancmange. And I think the way, because I was thinking about this the other day, I think it's about sort of key words basically. I know I think the way that I remember a lot of my jokes is that the joke isn't filed in my head as starting first word of the joke to last word of the joke. That the joke is filed first word of the joke to first word of the next joke I'm going to tell, right? And so that ensures that I keep on track and just remember the next thing, because I do have a perpetual fear of and then writing and then just nothing afterwards, and so you look a bit silly. You've gone from sort of hero to zero very quickly, where delivering a great line and then just having nothing afterwards. And so I find that I remember the little tag for the next thing, what I'm leading into, and it might not be an important word in that joke. So it might be a joke about my grandma, which mentions Skittles or whatever. And it doesn't need, and it could be Skittles, it could be Werther's Originals, it could be Maltesers. But I mentioned Skittles because the next joke is about is about baseball or something like that, which is related to Skittles because that is also a sport, something like that. So it's a way. So quite often I'll choose a joke, choose a word which could be any word. It could be placed at it could be any location, say, but I place it in a joke so that it leads me onto my next joke and helps me remember the next joke better. So my technique of remembering things, really, it's like imprinted into the content of the joke, which you could argue is a bit heavy-handed, really. I think a sensible, a more graceful antidote is just remember it, Ben. Just But yeah, so I sort of thematically link it in my brain.
Yeah,
and,
it's good.
And then I do I've always got a few things in my back pocket. It's sort of, and they're sort of like Harry Hill does, of just like silly things that if you lose your way, you can just sort of chuck in. Always a way of getting a quick laugh and sort of to give you time to sort of paddle back to what your routine was. Yeah.
I love the great comedy magicians like Pete Furman. I'm always staggered by the magic, and I always remember a story years ago when I was at college in Stoke, and we were given a thing to do where we had to teach somebody something, and it would be recorded, and there'd be questions and all the rest of it. And I taught this other person the only card trick I've ever known, and when I got up and did it, I forgot it. And I never forget. Learn to prepare. What is it? Fail to prepare. Prepare to fail. That was a lesson learned, because I completely forgot it.
Wow! I think that's fascinating, isn't it? I think that's really quite common. I think that happens. I mean, you see that at open mic level. You see that quite a lot. That people, they just lose their thread completely, and
they just go blank, don't they? And that's fascinating. It
is just a nerves thing. It is just a brain chemistry thing in one sense, but also there is I think you're using a different bit of your brain. I think that you're just remembering a piece of information is different to presenting that piece of information to a load of strangers, and just the act of performance, the act of trying to project, using a microphone at the same time. You're not just running through sort of a catechism in your head. You are trying to sort of sell it in some way, and obviously you feel more exposed as well. But I think it makes sense that people forget what they're talking about or dry on stage, because it's not. It reminds you that it's not just reciting a thing that you learned. It's not just regurgitating. It is. That's what performance is, really. It's having to embody those things. And that's just a different part of your brain. That's very fun. So, I mean, I'm putting you on the spot, Richard. You couldn't do that trick for us now, could you? I mean,
I haven't got a pack of cards, or I would.
Wow, you didn't think you did,
but it is like you say. It's like every time you go and perform on stage, it's as though it's the first time you're doing it. I think that's the key. If you can make it as relaxed as you can, I think the audience are with you, because literally you have something like 30 seconds to engage with them, and that's daunting. That's tough if you're not used to it.
Oh, definitely. And I think, but then again, I do think that's true just in life as well. I think in conversations, you've got about 30 seconds. And if you're boring for 30 seconds with a conversation with someone new, I don't think they're going to stick around either. I think
that's fascinating. Let's move on to Edinburgh. I'm very fortunate to be able to go to the Edinburgh Festival every year, and I've been going since 2005. I've missed 2 of them, and I go normally for a week, and I see about 50 shows, and I'm even on holiday by the time I come back.
I can see that.
I wonderfully saw you in a queue in 2024, the Monkey Barrel. We were going to see I was going to see Steve Bujega, wonderful comic, and also Chris Cantrell. Do you go to the Fringe regularly? Can you tell me about your experiences of going as a punter or as a comedian? And do you go to any other fringes and festivals like I do throughout the year?
Oh, that's a good cluster of questions. So Edinburgh's always been important to me. I've gone sort of most years for the last 6 or 7 years or something like that. I probably went for the first time when I was like a teenager, just like with my family, and then I went like early 20s, and that was because comedy's been one of the things I've been, really into, really passionate about since early, and
you and me both.
And it's surprising we haven't met before, and so obviously Edinburgh's where you go to check out the new stuff, and so it's so I went sort of a few times when I was a youngster, and now I sort of go habitually now, and I think it's amazing. It's absolutely it
is incredible.
Much fun as you can have with your clothes on, as the saying goes. I think it's absolutely brilliant. And I usually go for about a week. Usually just as a punter. I've done spots here and there, but I usually go as a punter, and it's just really exciting to see the new stuff. I think when you were en route to Steve J, I think I was seeing Lara Ricotta thing.
She's superb.
Yeah, I think she's great. And it's just, I mean, I'm not the first person to observe this, but it is funny, the ridiculous sort of geographical intensity of basically those 3 streets right in the middle of town, where if a bomb went off there, you would kill 70% of the comedians in the world.
And, I never thought of that.
Yeah, so that's really exciting, like that. And so that's true of, I would imagine, people that work in the pharmaceuticals industry get excited by a pharmaceutical conference, where absolutely all of the big moves and shakers all together in one place. But yeah, I absolutely love it. It's great seeing new people. It's great seeing the new ideas by people that I know well.
Yeah.
And I love it. And exactly things like that, running into anyone that we that I know from down south of London or just the circuit. It's a fun thing to, you'll literally, you'll be going from one show to another show, run into someone there, have to sort of run away from there, see someone else in the queue, and then find that you're accidentally sitting next to your best mate once you get into all of that's really, really nice. And I thought it was brilliant. Did you see anyone spectacular this year? Anyone?
I've never seen Chris Cantrell. I love Amy Gledhill, and he's great as well. The two of them do the delightful sausage. I predicted last year that Frankie Monroe, it would be his year, and we went in Edinburgh, and he got the best newcomer. I was delighted for him. Every year we see Jason Byrne. I know he's very popular, but he made us cry with laughter as ever, and that's all you can expect from it. We had it wasn't rushed, but we had 5 days instead of a week.
I think
we did see a lot.
I really I like doing it as a sprint. I like just really intense, 10 shows a day for a few days. I
was very, very lucky because we know Mark DeQueno, the comedy nerd. He worked for the Ish Comedy Awards. He was a member of that, and he got me into a lot of parties, which was amazing. So I could chat to a lot of the comedians.
Oh, that's lovely.
And I kept going for 6 a.m., which I hadn't done that for years.
It sounds like you got on the news. Did you get in the paper?
Yeah, it was so good.
Just getting up to all sorts of hijinks.
Oh, it is.
Who had the best free drinks?
We went to the Assembly. That was very good. It was like a nightclub, the VIP place. What else? I can't remember where else. I didn't even know what day it was, but it was just it was amazing, because the wonderful thing about doing this is, for me, doing the blog and the podcast now, is the recognition. It doesn't make any money or anything like this. I'm doing it purely out of passion, and it's wonderful. Instead of me running up to comedians wanting a photograph and then off and everything, they're coming to me for a chat. So it's lovely to go somewhere like Edinburgh, try and walk from one show to another, and you're bombarded with loads of wonderful stories from comedians. It's great.
It's lovely, yeah. Yeah, and just feeling like you're part of the ecosystem.
It's lovely, and to do it as a punter and sitting in the audience is much more universal, because you're supporting everybody. It's so good, and it's the same with other fringes and festivals. I go to Leicester. I'm going to Hull in November. I go to Brighton. Hastings is brilliant. We know them all down there by the sea. It's really lovely.
Because I live in Kent, and we've actually Tunbridge Wells Fringe has been really nice. I've done shows there before,
right.
But so I'm basically equidistant between Brighton and London. Brighton Fringe is killer, and I think Hastings Fringe is really good. I think it's incredible. Like, you must have found the same thing, that in our lifetime, it's gone from fringes. It feels like The World and His Wife has a fringe now. Like
it's great.
Any town, any town with a corner shop now has a fringe on. I mean, which is amazing, but it's surprising. Even in my experience as going to comedy sort of assiduously, it's really blown. I remember, so Edinburgh was always there, and Leicester has been a real sort of fixture for a while. But then just pretty much any town having its own sort of 3 or 4 days pretty concerted, good. I think Oxford and Cambridge are both really, really, really good. Those festivals are incredible. And it's just nice to have more opportunities to see for everyone around the country to see interesting odd
exactly.
like that.
Yeah, and I love travelling around as well. So to go to the different places and to
Yeah,
and to see the fringes is it's fantastic. Long may it continue.
yeah.
Did you have comedy growing up? Who are your favourite comedians, past and present?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, growing up, I would have got comedy from my dad. You would have heard this quite a lot, I would have thought. So someone like Tommy Cooper would have been. So we had probably about 4 videos growing up in total, and one of them was Tommy Cooper. And I think he's really, you know, that's
Genius.
he's just so good. He's like Muhammad Ali. It's like, yep, that's how you do that. Yeah, congratulations. Yeah, there's no notes. That's fantastic. So yeah, so something like Tommy Cooper, and then things like films like Airplane stuff, I think, and Naked Gun, I think would have been
Brilliant.
really
Good call. Yeah.
which I really adore. So, which and Monty Python, obviously, and I think and Trevor Simon actually thinking about. So we had 4 videos. One was Tommy Cooper and one was Trevor Simon. And
well, you can see the resemblance.
Yeah, I look like very much like a melange of all 3 of those. And it's just funny, obviously, not people. I don't think you don't get legions of people talking about Trevor Simon now, but they were like on Live and Kicking or Going Live. They were like they had millions of eyeballs on them, and they were much better than they needed to be. They were really interesting, funny guys, and and it was really so. So that would have been a thinking about. I maybe hadn't thought about it too much, but like they would have been. Yeah, they would have been a definite influence from that really early days.
They were on the radar. Yeah.
From my dad, just that, someone like Tommy Cooper or maybe Tony Hancock, obviously, and then I got into I've always been interested in sort of esoteric, odder stuff, and Partridge, and then like the sort of Partridge and the sort of the axis of Iannucci and Chris Morrison stuff would have really got the ball rolling on my sort of more adult sort of comedy taste.
And if you're on a comedy bill, do you tend to stay and watch the rest of the acts?
I'm busy, Richard. All right. Of course, yeah. I mean, obviously, if I've got another gig, I will go to that. But
people double up. Yeah.
Yeah, I really like comedy. I'm really interested. I really like other comedians. I'm interested in good comedians. I'm really interested in bad comedians. And I'm just interested to see what other acts do with the same room. Sometimes I've got it. Yeah, sometimes. I mean, naming. Sometimes the train service isn't quite up to scratch. Naming their initials are Southwestern Trains. But I always. If I'm there for the duration, and I'm interested.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
How. And one thing I think is interesting. To see the same act. See the same performer do the same act, open, middle, or close. Sometimes over the years, I think it's really instructive and really interesting to see how there are certain things. It changes things. That you can say the same words and they'll be received differently depending on where you go in the night. Obviously, what other else has happened that night. But yeah, it's always information. It's always fresh meat. It's always interesting to stick around. And I'd never. I do. It's fun, I do that anyway. I'd go and pay for comedy shows anyway. So obviously, I'd like to.
It's interesting you say that, because one of the reasons why I love doing the blog is to paint a picture of a comedian's career. So you mentioned Harry Hill earlier on. My favourite ever opening line, it was from Harry Hill 30 years ago. And I saw him. I used to go all the time downstairs at the King's Head at Crouch End, well before he was famous. Fantastic club. And he was late for the show. He brushed past me, jumped on the stage, and went, "Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm really sorry I'm late. I had to have a testicle brought down," and everybody burst out laughing. And then he said, "From Derby." And when I finally met him 25 years later.
Yeah.
No, Richie said, "I still tell that joke to this day."
And it's funny, isn't it? You sort of
amazing.
Feel like you've become it because you hold that line so dearly. It becomes part of your autobiography. So when you hear it 20 years later, it's almost like it's almost like, oh, I went to primary school with that line.
Yeah,
warm and sort of
very true.
That happens sometimes for me when I love it seeing like the first time an act does a gag or a story, you know, oh, I'm just working this out, let's see how this goes. And I feel really attached to it sometimes when you see that piece of material making its first faltering Bambi baby steps, you know, and then 6 months later you see it absolutely killing in a big room. That is exciting. You think, oh yeah, I was on, you know, in on Bitcoin on the ground floor. I knew, you know, I knew that was good back in the day. Attachment to the
that's
to the
fascinating. Yeah. My first ever comedy gig was Les Dawson in 1977. He was no 1974. Sorry, yes, 1974. Okay. So I was 7. And we were on holiday as a family in Scarborough. He was absolutely fantastic.
Right, what venue was it in Scarborough?
It was at Floral Halls Theatre, Scarborough.
Amazing.
And then a year later, we saw Tommy Cooper in the same venue. And the curtains opened. There's nothing on stage but a bed. And he's lying on it, asleep. And one woman in the audience cried with laughter. It trickled round. So everybody's laughing, and he hasn't done a thing. And after about 5 minutes, when everybody's crying with laughter, he pops his head up. He goes, "What? Somebody come on!" An absolute genius. Wow. I meant to say at this year's Edinburgh, I saw it on preview. There was a play called The Last Laugh. There are 3 actors. One of them's playing Eric Morecambe, one of them's playing Tommy Cooper, and one of them's playing Bob Monkhouse. Absolutely fantastic about them all meeting up, you think, in a waiting room, not in a waiting room, in a dressing room, and going through their lives. But there's loads of plot to it. But it was a fantastic hour and a half, and it got everything in about each one's specific comic character, and I'm hoping it's going to go to the West End because it's that good. But I've been so lucky that the ones that I would have loved to have seen, and the ones that really why the blog exists for me are Morecambe and Wise. Again, it's this ability not to do anything and people laugh at you. That's extraordinary. So with Eric Morecambe, it was the glasses. With Tommy Cooper, it was the fairs. And as I said at the top of the interview, or before we started, I've just recently interviewed Gary Morecambe, and he was just magical to hear him talk about Eric being his dad and what was it like and the career and everything. And so all that in the 70s, and then in the 80s I came down to London, and my first ever gig at the Comedy Store would be Richard Morton, Phil Jupitus, Linda Smith, God bless her, and just fantastic acts, and seeing them all, French and Saunders, Rick Mail I saw in Carlisle, Ben Elton, Frank Skinner. I've been watching Frank Skinner for years, and just recently when he did Edinburgh about a year ago, I met him for the first time, and I went up to him and I said, "Frank," and he said, he sort of like took a step back and went, "Yes." I said, look, I'm really sorry.
Took a step back, really?
I'm really sorry to bother you, but can I have a photograph, please? Because I'm such a big fan. And he looked at me and he sighed and went, "Oh, thank God." He said, "Of course you can." He said, "I thought you were going to get a refund." There's so many classic stories. And I just love doing what I do. It's
of course, it's wonderful. And is there something? Obviously, there might not be anyone that's got more experience of seeing a comedy than you have. Over the last few years, is there a connecting theme that you see, that, like, to your own taste? Is there a particular thing that connects all the things that you love the most? Like, I feel like everyone's going to be funny, everyone's going to be interesting, but is there a thing that hits that sugar high for you?
I put them all into groups. So I love nutters.
Good,
and I love, so you got Jason Byrne, people who are left field. You never know what you're going to get next. John Kearns is another one. Boothby Graffo's one. I love one-line merchants. I absolutely love people like Tim Vine, Milton Jones, because I can remember the jokes, and I try and tell them at work the next day, and I'm not as funny as the person the comedian who told me the laugh. I've got the laugh, but people go, "Oh, that's hilarious! You got another joke." And I work with a very cynical person who's like, "He'll make me laugh one day," and I'm determined to do it, But it's fascinating. So you have to put them all into groups. But there are people. Actually, I can let you know. I'm hoping that during my anniversary year, I've submitted an article to the British Comedy Guide. I know the editor there, and I've given him 25 moments from my 50 years of comedy. Wow. So they're literally lifted off the blog of performances that I've seen, and the comedians that are on there are just phenomenal. But there's also newbies as well. So, for example, I'd never heard of a comedian called Gary Jennison, who's one of my favourite comedians now. He runs Hull Comedy Festival. Right. Okay, and we saw him in Hastings. He had to go on because there was another comedian who couldn't make it. So he walked on. And he literally went, "I've no idea what I'm going to talk about for the next half an hour. Does anybody have any questions or comments?" Mm-hmm. And I harped up and I said, "Can you tell me why I've eaten 2 packets of crisps a day for 30 years and I've suddenly developed diabetes?" Which is true. But he came back with the greatest 20 minutes I've ever heard on crisps. Just out of thin air, and so being in that moment, it's magical, and that's why I do it. It's
that's.
But he's gone into the thing. He's gone into the article.
And I think they're always the most rewarding moments, aren't they? Where there's an element of spontaneity to it. You know, it's lightning in a bottle. This particular set of circumstances come.
As we said earlier on, there is something about being live. It was all well and good having the online shows, and they were fine with COVID and everything, but being live, there is something very special about that. Another entry was Joe Kent Walters, who I saw at Hull Comedy Festival. He won BBC Comedy Award on the Monday night, and I'd never heard of him. I thought, who on earth's this? And without realising, they booked him on the Thursday at the festival, and he got a standing ovation because it was such a unique. There's like bits of Reeves and Mortimer, bits of Mighty Bush, bits of Johnny Vegas in there, and Frankie Monroe is an extraordinary character. He so deserved the newcomer.
Oh, definitely, yeah. I think he's a really good character, and like you say, he absolutely takes part in a sort of like a lineage of that style of character has its antecedents over the last sort of 20 years or whatever, and it's really
so good. Wish him all the best. Like me, do you go to lots of comedy gigs as a member of the audience?
I used to. I gig myself, but then I still run comedy shows, doing stuff. So I see lots. So I don't pay to see as much as I used to, but I still do. There's still obviously go to see loads and loads of stuff at Edinburgh, and I'll see more. I'll make an effort to see weird stuff. So like Kim Noble at Soho Theatre or something like that, like Aura Kearns, the wacky stuff that you just can't see anywhere else. I'll because I see so much club stuff that I don't end up sort of paying for too much club stuff. But definitely like the eccentric stuff. I saw yesterday. I saw the tribute show to Steve Brown, how it's sort of compared by Harry Hill, which was.
I wanted to see that. That was tragic. Yeah.
It was really sad news, but it was really a great show, and Alfie did a great job, and Harry Hill compared it really well, and it was that was good. And so I suppose those things, it just makes me, just like anything, if you're a chef and you're tasting things all day, then I think you've only really got room in your life for the very, very best or the most home comforts, stuff. So I think it's sort of by working in comedy much more, it's almost polarized my taste into the weirdest, most unpredictable, sort of artiest, oddest stuff, or like I'm going to put on a Tommy Cooper DVD now and enjoy myself. That's how it is. But I still go to plenty, less so than I did, because I used to go to loads before I performed. but it's still great. And it's funny how it genuinely feels like it's because of my role. It's funny now to be at a comedy show as a punter, and it feels like a day off. It feels like a holiday. I don't have to check anyone's tickets, nor do I have to be funny. Excellent. I can just sit down and drink a pint.
Just sit down and enjoy it. Yeah. Long may it last, my friend. It is the best art form. It really is. What is not to love about laughing? It's such a positive thing. I've so much enjoyed talking to you. I could talk to you all night. Is there anything else you'd like to say before we go? Do you have a podcast or anything like that where people can find you on social media?
I think I'm probably the only comedian in Great Britain that doesn't have a podcast at the moment. You can check me out on Instagram as The Real Benjamin Patterson. That's what I am there. And I'm funny on that and do bespoke clips and silly things. I think I do good stuff on that. The Real Benjamin Patterson. And I'm gig every week in the southeast and also sometimes up and about. I've got my first Liverpool Hot Water in about a week.
Wow. When's that?
So it's not, say again.
When are you doing that?
Sunday. So it will be Sunday not this Sunday, but the next Sunday.
So it's very soon.
Yeah. So I'm.
Brilliant!
But I'm in my altitude chamber, just sort of training now to impress.
You'll be fine. They'll look after you.
Follow me on The Real Benjamin Patterson. I am funny, and other than that, I'm sure I will see every single one of your viewers on the road.
I'm sure you will, and you will definitely see me very, very soon, Monday the 30th of September and beyond, because you are helping to run an amazing comedy club in Kingston. Outside the Box is fantastic. Been going there for years. It's also Stoneleigh and New Malden, is it? It's that?
That's right, yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much, and all the very best to you. It's been wonderful talking to you.
Absolutely brilliant. Thanks so much. Cheers, Richard. Thank you.